Mother Bear found a crying German Shepherd pup. The baby's help for both shocked everyone. Let us know where you're watching from. If you love my content, consider supporting it with a super thanks. Every bit of your support helps us create even more amazing stories for you. The morning mist hung low over the forest as Savannah Reed stood at her cabin window, gently rocking her 10-month-old daughter, Lily. The little girl had been unusually restless since dawn, her big blue eyes fixed on something beyond the tree line. Savannah sighed, running her fingers through her tangled hair. They had moved to this remote cabin just 3 weeks ago, hoping the peaceful surroundings would help her recover from the loss of her husband, Jacob. The city had too many memories, too many ghosts. "What do you see out there, my little one?" Savannah whispered, pressing her lips to Lily's soft curls. The baby cooed and pointed, her tiny finger aimed at a shadowy movement between the pines. Savannah squinted, her heart skipping a beat as she made out the massive form of a mother bear emerging from the trees. She instinctively stepped back from the window, clutching Lily closer to her chest. The bear moved with a strange urgency, sniffing the ground and letting out low, mournful grunts. Savannah had been warned about the local wildlife when they moved in, but nothing prepared her for the raw emotion visible in the animal's movements. Something was wrong. The bear paced back and forth, occasionally standing on her hind legs to scan the forest. Savannah realized with a start that the bear was searching for something, or someone. "Her cub," Savannah whispered. "She's looking for her baby." The parallels weren't lost on her. Hadn't she also wandered aimlessly after Jacob's accident, desperately searching for something that was gone forever? Lily squirmed in her arms, making those little sounds that usually preceded tears. But instead of crying, the baby stretched her arms toward the window, as if reaching for the distressed animal outside. The bear suddenly froze, her head jerking toward a clump of bushes near the cabin's garden fence. Savannah held her breath as the animal approached cautiously, her powerful shoulders hunched and tense. A soft whimpering sound drifted through the partially open window, definitely not a bear cub. The mother bear circled the bushes, sniffing curiously before using her massive paw to gently push aside the foliage. Savannah gasped as a small, trembling German Shepherd puppy was revealed, its muzzle crusted with dirt and what looked like blood. The puppy cowered at the sight of the bear, its tiny body shaking violently as it tried to crawl deeper into the bushes. The bear made a sound Savannah had never heard before, something between a grunt and a whine. It was the sound of confusion, perhaps even compassion. "No, no, no," Savannah murmured, as Lily began to squirm more insistently in her arms. The baby's face was scrunched with determination, her little hands opening and closing as she stared at the scene unfolding outside. "We need to stay inside where it's safe, sweetheart." But the mother bear wasn't attacking the puppy. Instead, she lowered her massive head, sniffing the tiny creature with surprising gentleness. The puppy froze, its eyes wide with terror as the bear's warm breath ruffled its fur. Then, in a gesture that made Savannah's heart constrict, the bear nudged the puppy with her nose, as if encouraging it to stand. Lily began to fuss loudly, her small body twisting with unusual strength. Before Savannah could tighten her grip, the baby had slipped partway down, clinging to her mother's shirt and pointing insistently at the door. A cold fear washed over Savannah. The bear was just outside, a wild, unpredictable animal with enough strength to kill them both with a single swipe of her paw. And yet, there was something in the bear's behavior that didn't match what Savannah knew about these creatures. The bear's head suddenly snapped up, her ears flattening against her skull as she looked directly at the cabin window. Their eyes met, woman and bear, and Savannah felt a jolt of recognition that defied explanation. There was intelligence in those dark eyes and something that looked remarkably like grief. The bear looked back at the whimpering puppy, then again at the window, as if torn between two impossible choices. A sharp crack echoed through the forest, a twig snapping somewhere deep among the trees. The bear's head whipped toward the sound, her body tensing. The puppy seized the opportunity to crawl a few inches away, its movements weak and uncoordinated. Savannah knew the signs of dehydration and hunger when she saw them. The poor thing wouldn't survive much longer without help. Lily's fussing turned to determined cries. Somehow, impossibly, the baby seemed to understand the gravity of the situation unfolding before them. As Savannah watched in stunned silence, the mother bear made a decision. With one last look at the cabin, she turned and lumbered quickly toward the source of the sound, disappearing into the trees. "What just happened?" Savannah whispered to herself, her arms trembling around her child. The puppy lay exposed now, its small chest heaving with each labored breath. Without the bear's massive presence, Savannah could see how truly tiny and vulnerable it was, probably not more than 8 weeks old. How had it ended up here, miles from any main road or neighborhood? Lily's cries grew more insistent, her little face reddening with effort. Savannah tried to rock her, to distract her with soft words and gentle bouncing, but the baby would not be consoled. Something deep and primal was connecting her child to the suffering outside their door. Savannah closed her eyes, thinking of Jacob. What would he do in this situation? "He'd help," she whispered. "Even if it scared him to death, he'd help." With her heart pounding against her ribs, Savannah placed Lily in her playpen. The baby immediately pulled herself up on the railing, her cries turning to whimpers as she watched her mother move toward the door. Savannah grabbed the first aid kit from under the kitchen sink and a small bowl of water. Her hands shook as she unlocked the door, scanning the tree line for any sign of the bear's return. "Stay there, sweetie," she called to Lily, who was bouncing impatiently in the playpen. "Mommy will be right back." The morning air felt thick with tension as Savannah crept across the yard. The puppy hadn't moved, its small body still visible among the crushed foliage where the bear had left it. As she approached, Savannah could see the extent of the puppy's injuries. A deep gash along its hind leg, patches of fur missing from its side, and what looked like bite marks around its neck. This wasn't a case of abandonment. Something had attacked this puppy and left it for dead. "Hey there, little one," Savannah whispered, kneeling a few feet away. The puppy's eyes fluttered open, revealing pools of golden brown clouded with pain. It tried to growl but produced only a weak whimper that broke Savannah's heart. "It's okay, I'm going to help you." She inched forward slowly, offering her hand for the puppy to sniff. For a moment, the small animal tensed, but exhaustion won out over fear. The puppy's cold nose touched her fingertips briefly before its head slumped back to the ground. Taking this as permission, Savannah gently scooped the tiny body into her arms, surprised at how little it weighed. A twig snapped behind her. Savannah whirled around, clutching the puppy to her chest. Her breath caught in her throat as she found herself face to face with the mother bear, not 20 feet away. The massive animal stood perfectly still, watching. Behind the bear, partially hidden by her bulk, was a small bear cub. The missing baby had been found. "Easy now," Savannah whispered, though she wasn't sure if she was speaking to the bear or to herself. Her legs felt rooted to the ground, incapable of the mad dash to safety that her brain was screaming for. The mother bear sniffed the air, her intelligent eyes fixed on the bundle in Savannah's arms. From inside the cabin, Lily let out a loud, happy squeal. The bear's ears pricked forward, her head tilting curiously at the sound. The cub peeked around its mother, equally interested in the unfamiliar noise. Savannah took a tentative step backward, then another. The bear did not advance. Instead, she nudged her cub forward, as if showing Savannah that she too had found what she was looking for. It was in that bizarre, frozen moment that Savannah heard the rumble of an engine. A vehicle was approaching up the long, winding driveway that led to her cabin. The bear heard it too, her massive head swinging toward the sound. In an instant, the spell was broken. The mother bear huffed sharply and her cub scurried to her side. With one last look at Savannah and the puppy, the bear turned and disappeared into the forest, her cub close behind. Savannah stood trembling, the puppy whimpering softly against her chest. The sound of the approaching vehicle grew louder, and she recognized the familiar rattle of Logan Carter's old pickup truck. Logan was the local game warden and had been checking in on her regularly since she moved in, bringing supplies and making sure she and Lily were adjusting to their new, isolated life. "Savannah?" Logan's deep voice carried across the yard as his truck came into view. He jumped out, his tall frame tense with concern. "What are you doing out here? Is everything okay?" The words stuck in her throat as the adrenaline began to fade, leaving her shaky and lightheaded. Logan was by her side in an instant, his weathered hand steadying her elbow. His eyes widened when he saw the injured puppy in her arms. "Where did you find that?" he asked, his voice dropping to a whisper as he gently examined the trembling animal. "The bear," Savannah managed, glancing toward the trees where the mother and cub had vanished. "The mother bear found it first." Logan's expression shifted from concern to disbelief. "A bear found this puppy and didn't kill it?" "Not only that," Savannah said, finding her voice as they walked quickly toward the cabin. "She seemed to be protecting it somehow, until she found her cub." Inside, Lily greeted them with excited babbles, her earlier distress completely forgotten. Logan helped Savannah lay the puppy on a clean towel on the kitchen table. His experienced hands moved gently over the small body, assessing the damage. "These aren't bear marks," he said after a moment. His brow furrowed. "Looks like another dog, maybe a coyote, pretty deep, but nothing fatal if we get him treated soon." He glanced up at Savannah. "I've never heard of a bear showing mercy to an injured animal, especially another predator's young. Are you sure about what you saw?" Savannah nodded, gathering supplies while Logan cleaned the puppy's wounds. "It was the strangest thing I've ever seen. The bear was looking for her cub, found this puppy instead, and just seemed to understand. Then Lily started getting upset, almost like she knew the puppy needed help." Logan's hands paused over the puppy. "About that cub, there's something you should know." His voice had taken on a somber quality that made Savannah look up sharply. "I've been tracking that mother bear for weeks. Poachers killed 2 of her 3 cubs about a month ago. I found their bodies, but the third was missing. I thought it was dead too until now." "Poachers?" Savannah repeated, a chill running down her spine. "Here?" Logan nodded grimly. "They're after bear gallbladders. Fetch a high price on the black market. I've been trying to catch them, but they're careful. Too careful." His jaw tightened. "I think they may have gotten more than they bargained for with this mother, though. Found one of their camps torn apart last week. No bodies, but a lot of blood." Savannah glanced toward the window, seeing the forest in a new, more sinister light. "Do you think they're still out there?" "That's what worries me," Logan admitted, finishing the puppy's bandage. "And now I have to wonder if this little guy is connected somehow." He gestured to the puppy, who had fallen into an exhausted sleep under their care. "These could be hunting dog bites. Some poachers use dogs to track and corner bears." A distressing thought occurred to Savannah. So, this puppy might belong to the Poachers? What if they come looking for it? Logan's expression hardened. Let them try. I've been waiting for them to make a mistake. He reached for his radio. I'm calling this in. The puppy needs a vet, and you and Lily need to be somewhere safe until I sort this out. But before Logan could make the call, a sudden crash from the back of the cabin made them both freeze. Lily, who had been contentedly playing in her high chair, began to wail. The noise had come from Savannah's bedroom, the window breaking. "Get Lily," Logan whispered urgently, reaching for the gun holstered at his hip. "Get in the bathroom and lock the door." Savannah snatched Lily from her high chair, her mind racing. The puppy was still unconscious on the table. Without thinking, she grabbed it too, cradling both the baby and the injured animal as she backed toward the hallway. Another crash, and then the unmistakable sound of heavy boots on broken glass. Someone was inside the cabin. "Well, well," a rough voice called out. "Looks like we found our missing property, Carter, and some uninvited guests in our hunting grounds." Logan pushed Savannah behind him, his gun raised. "Michael Hayes," he growled. "Should have known it was you, still poaching where you don't belong." A tall man stepped into view, his face shadowed by a dirty baseball cap. Behind him, two more figures lurked in the hallway. The man, Michael, grinned, revealing yellowed teeth. "Not poaching, Warden, just collecting what's mine." His eyes settled on the puppy in Savannah's arms. "Including that runt that ran off during our last hunt. Thought the bears would have made a meal of him by now." Savannah clutched the puppy closer, feeling its rapid heartbeat against her arm. The poor creature had begun to tremble again, recognizing the voice of its tormentor. Lily, sensing the tension, buried her face in her mother's neck. "You're trespassing on private property," Logan said evenly, though Savannah could see the muscle twitching in his jaw. "And there's evidence linking you to illegal hunting activities across 3 counties. Put your hands where I can see them." Michael laughed, a sound like gravel underfoot. 3 against 1, Carter. Bad odds, even for a hotshot like you." He took a step forward, and Logan's finger tightened on the trigger. "Besides, we're just having a friendly chat. Nobody needs to get hurt unless you insist." The standoff stretched into seconds, then minutes. Savannah's arms ached from holding both Lily and the puppy, but she dared not move. Outside, the forest had gone unnaturally quiet, as if holding its breath. And then, breaking the silence, came a sound that made everyone in the cabin freeze. A deep, rumbling growl from just outside the back window. Michael's face drained of color. "That's not possible," he whispered. "We've been tracking that bear for miles. She shouldn't be—" His words cut off as an enormous shadow passed by the broken window. The mother bear had returned, and she wasn't alone. Savannah gasped as she caught a glimpse of not one, but 2 cubs following behind their mother. The missing cub had a sibling after all, one that had somehow escaped the poachers. "The tracking device," one of Michael's men hissed. "It must have fallen off during the last encounter." Logan's eyes widened in understanding. "You put a tracker on a mother bear? Are you insane?" But Michael wasn't listening. His attention was fixed on the window, where the mother bear now stood on her hind legs, towering over 7 feet tall. Her massive paws pressed against the broken window frame, wood splintering under her weight. The message was clear. She had followed the puppy's scent, and she had come to reclaim what was under her protection. Savannah felt a strange calm settle over her. With absolute certainty, she knew what she had to do. Moving slowly, she stepped away from Logan's protective stance, ignoring his hissed warning. "Savannah, don't—" She walked toward the broken window, Lily on one hip and the puppy cradled in her other arm. The mother bear's eyes tracked her movement, intelligent and assessing. When Savannah stopped a few feet from the window, the bear lowered herself back to all fours, her cubs peeking curiously from behind her bulk. "She knows," Savannah said softly. "Somehow, she knows we're trying to help." "Don't be stupid, woman," Michael snarled. But there was fear in his voice now. "That's a wild animal. It'll tear you apart without blinking." The mother bear huffed, her warm breath visible in the cool morning air. One of the cubs, the one that had been missing, took a tentative step toward the window, sniffing eagerly. The puppy in Savannah's arms stirred, whimpering softly. And then Lily did something that made everyone in the cabin hold their breath. She extended her small hand toward the window, palm open, fingers splayed. A greeting. An offering of peace. The mother bear huffed again, softer this time. Her cubs pressed closer to the window, curious about the strange little human and the injured puppy. Michael took advantage of the distraction, pulling a hunting knife from his belt. The metallic sound of the blade clearing its sheath caught Logan's attention. "Drop it, Hayes," Logan commanded, his gun still trained on the poacher. "Don't make this worse than it already is." But Michael's eyes had taken on a desperate gleam. "That bear hide alone is worth thousands. Add the cubs and the organs. I'm not walking away from this. Not when the payday is right in front of me." One of Michael's companions, a heavy-set man with a scraggly beard, shifted nervously. "Mike, this ain't worth it. We got the feds on our tail already. Let's just go." "Shut up, Connor," Michael snarled. "We finish what we started." Outside, the mother bear sensed the rising tension. Her posture changed, muscles bunching beneath her thick fur as she let out a warning growl that vibrated through the cabin walls. The cubs retreated slightly, responding to their mother's alarm. Lily began to fuss, picking up on the fear saturating the room. The puppy in Savannah's arms whimpered in response, its small body trembling against her. Something about the synchronicity between the baby and the pup made Savannah pause. She looked closer at the German shepherd's golden-brown eyes and noticed something she'd missed before. A distinctive white patch around its right eye, shaped almost like a crescent moon. A memory surfaced, something Logan had mentioned weeks ago during one of his supply runs. A local legend about a spirit that wandered the forest in the form of a shepherd with a moon-marked eye, guiding lost souls home. The old-timers called it the Forest Guardian. "That's not just any puppy," Savannah whispered, the realization spreading through her like wildfire. "Logan, look at his eye." Logan glanced at the puppy, then back at Michael, unwilling to lower his guard. But his expression betrayed his recognition. "The moon mark," he murmured. "I thought that was just an old story." Michael's face contorted with rage. "Enough of this superstitious garbage. Step aside, woman, or I'll go through you to get what I came for." He lunged forward, knife raised. Several things happened at once. Logan fired a warning shot that splintered the ceiling. The mother bear roared and crashed her full weight against the damaged window frame, shattering it completely. And the puppy in Savannah's arms suddenly leaped to the floor with strength that seemed impossible given its injuries. The puppy stood between Savannah and Michael, its small body transformed by a ferocity that belied its size. A growl rumbled from its throat, deep and resonant, impossibly powerful for such a tiny creature. Michael faltered, momentarily transfixed by the sight. That split second of hesitation was all it took. The mother bear burst through the broken window, wood and glass exploding inward as her massive form filled the kitchen. Michael's companions fled, disappearing down the hallway with shouts of terror. Michael himself stumbled backward, dropping his knife in shock. "Don't move!" Logan shouted. But it wasn't clear whether he was addressing Michael or Savannah, who stood frozen with Lily clutched to her chest, the puppy at her feet. The mother bear rose to her full height, towering over everyone in the room. Her cubs peeked cautiously from behind the broken window frame, unwilling to follow their mother into the human dwelling. The bear's eyes found Michael, recognition and hatred burning in their depths. This was the man who had killed her cubs, who had hunted her family relentlessly through the forest. Michael scrambled backward until he hit the wall, true fear etched into every line of his face. "Call it off, Carter." "For God's sake, call it off." "She's not mine to command," Logan replied, his voice steady despite the extraordinary situation unfolding before him. "And she remembers what you did to her family." The mother bear dropped to all fours, her massive head swinging towards Savannah and Lily. The puppy hobbled forward, placing itself between the bear and the humans. But instead of aggression, the small animal displayed a calm assurance, as if mediating between two worlds. To everyone's astonishment, the puppy approached the bear without fear, limping slightly from its injuries. It whined softly, tail wagging in tentative greeting. The mother bear lowered her head, sniffing the small creature with surprising gentleness. Then, in a gesture that defied explanation, she nudged the puppy with her nose, turning it back toward Savannah and Lily. "She's giving him to us," Savannah whispered, understanding dawning in her eyes. "She knows he needs our help." Logan stepped forward cautiously, positioning himself between the bear and Michael. "Savannah, take Lily and the pup and go to my truck. Now." Savannah hesitated, reluctant to leave Logan alone with the bear and the desperate poacher, but Lily's safety had to come first. She scooped up the puppy and backed slowly toward the front door, murmuring soothing words to both the animals and her child. As if understanding the unspoken agreement, the mother bear remained focused on Michael, ignoring Savannah's retreat. Outside, the cubs whined anxiously for their mother, adding to the tension that filled the cabin like electricity before a storm. Michael's eyes darted around the room, seeking escape. "You can't let that thing kill me, Carter." "You're an officer of the law." "I'm also a protector of these forests and the creatures that live here," Logan replied, his voice hard as granite. "Including those bear cubs you orphaned." The mother bear huffed, taking a step closer to Michael. Her claws clicked against the wooden floor, each sound like a death knell to the trapped poacher. Michael's hand inched toward his boot, where Savannah could see the outline of a hidden weapon. "Logan, he has another knife," she cried out. Before Logan could react, Michael pulled the blade and lunged forward in desperation. The bear roared, rearing up with paws outstretched. Logan fired his gun, the shot deafening in the confined space. Savannah turned away, shielding Lily's eyes as she ran for the door. The puppy squirmed in her grip, trying to return to the chaos behind them. Outside, she sprinted toward Logan's truck, her heart hammering in her chest. She could hear shouting, another gunshot, and the sound of breaking furniture. She reached the truck and wrenched open the passenger door, placing Lily and the puppy inside before climbing in herself. Through the cabin windows, she could see shadowy forms moving in violent struggle. One of Michael's men emerged from the side of the cabin, clutching his arm where blood seeped through his sleeve. He staggered into the woods without looking back. Minutes stretched like hours as Savannah waited, torn between the need to ensure Lily's safety and the urge to help Logan. The puppy had calmed somewhat, curling protectively around Lily in the truck seat. The baby reached out with chubby fingers, patting the animal's head with surprising gentleness. "It's okay," Savannah whispered, though she wasn't sure who she was trying to reassure. "It's going to be okay. A final gunshot echoed through the clearing, followed by a silence more terrifying than any sound. Savannah held her breath, eyes fixed on the cabin door. When it finally opened, she sagged with relief at the sight of Logan, disheveled but alive. His shirt was torn and blood smeared his cheek, but he walked steadily toward the truck. "Michael?" Savannah asked as he approached. Logan's expression was grim. Alive, but he won't be hunting anything for a long time. His shoulders torn up pretty bad. He glanced back at the cabin. The bear went back out through the window, grabbed Michael's tracking equipment and destroyed it right in front of him. A smart animal. And the cubs? Following their mother back into the forest, Logan confirmed, climbing into the driver's seat. He paused, noticing the way the puppy had curled around Lily. "Well, would you look at that?" Lily giggled, her earlier distress completely forgotten as she buried her face in the puppy's fur. The animal licked her cheek, its tail wagging weakly. "What happens now?" Savannah asked, watching the tree line where the bear family had disappeared. Logan started the engine, his hand steady despite the ordeal they'd just survived. "First, we get Michael to a hospital. Then I call in the federal wildlife agents I've been working with. We've been building a case against Hayes and his crew for months. This should be enough to put them away for a long time." "And the puppy?" Savannah stroked its small head, noting how its eyes drooped with exhaustion. "Will you take him to a shelter?" Logan gave her a sidelong glance as they pulled away from the cabin. "I was thinking he might have already found a home. That is, if you're interested in keeping him." Savannah looked down at the improbable pair, her daughter and the moon-marked puppy, and felt something she hadn't experienced since Jacob's death. A sense of rightness, of pieces falling into place. "I think he's already decided to stay," she said softly. As they drove down the winding forest road, Savannah thought about the strange connections that had brought them all together. A grieving human mother, a protective mother bear, a mysteriously marked puppy, and an innocent child. Different species bound by the same primal instinct to protect the vulnerable. "Logan," she said suddenly, remembering something that had been bothering her. "When the bear came through the window, did you notice something strange about the puppy, the way it growled?" Logan's hands tightened on the steering wheel. "I noticed. Sounded like no puppy I've ever heard." He shook his head. "The old-timers around here would say that's the forest guardian showing its true nature. When I was a kid, my grandfather used to tell stories about it appearing in times of need, especially to protect children and mothers." "You don't actually believe that, do you?" Savannah asked, though the events of the morning had shaken her certainty about what was and wasn't possible. "I believe there are things in these mountains older than our understanding," Logan replied carefully. "And I believe that puppy is special, whatever he is." As if in response, the puppy raised its head, those intelligent golden-brown eyes meeting Savannah's. For a moment, she could have sworn they glowed with an inner light, like twin moons in the dimness of the truck cab. Lily reached out, placing her small hand on the puppy's head. "Moon," she said clearly, her first recognizable word. Savannah and Logan exchanged startled glances. Did she just... "Moon," Lily repeated, patting the white crescent mark around the puppy's eye. "Moon. I guess he has a name now," Savannah said, her voice thick with emotion. "Moon it is." They drove in silence for a while, the events of the morning settling around them like the gradual clearing of fog. When they reached the main road, Savannah saw a convoy of official vehicles heading toward them, the backup Logan had requested before arriving at her cabin. As Logan pulled over to meet them, Savannah gazed back at the forest stretching behind them. For a moment, she thought she caught a glimpse of movement at the tree line, a large, dark shape watching from the shadows, two smaller forms at its side. Then they were gone, melting back into the wilderness that had both threatened and saved them. "We'll need to go back to the cabin eventually," Logan said, following her gaze. "Collect your things, assess the damage, but not today. Today, you and Lily need somewhere safe to rest." "And Moon," Savannah added, scratching behind the puppy's ears. In response, he snuggled closer to Lily, their breathing falling into perfect synchrony. "All three of us need rest." Logan nodded, stepping out to speak with the arriving officers. Through the window, Savannah heard fragments of his explanation. Poachers, endangered bears, a confrontation gone wrong. He said nothing about the puppy's strange behavior or the bear's seemingly impossible understanding. Some stories, Savannah realized, were too extraordinary for official reports. As the morning sun climbed higher, bathing the forest in golden light, Savannah felt the first tentative stirrings of hope. The path ahead wouldn't be easy. The cabin needed repairs. Michael and his men would face justice, and she still had her own grief to work through. But something fundamental had shifted this morning, a reconnection to the world around her, to the primal bonds that linked all living things. Lily yawned widely, her eyelids growing heavy. Moon, the puppy, watched over her with vigilant attention, his small body protectively curled around hers. Outside, the federal agents were loading a handcuffed Michael Hayes into one of their vehicles, his face pale with shock and pain. The forest stood silent, witness to it all, ancient and enduring. "We're going to be okay," Savannah whispered to her drowsy daughter and the mysterious puppy who had found them. "All of us." And for the first time since Jacob's death, she truly believed it. The next few days passed in a blur of official statements, medical examinations, and temporary accommodations. The local veterinarian treated Moon's injuries with professional efficiency, though Savannah noticed how the woman's hands trembled slightly when she examined the crescent marking around his eye. "I've never seen anything quite like it," the vet admitted, watching as Moon submitted to the examination with unusual patience for a puppy his age. "The marking is natural, not a scar or artificial coloration. And these wounds, they're healing remarkably fast." Savannah wasn't surprised. She'd noticed changes in Moon with each passing day, not just the rapid healing of his injuries, but a watchfulness that seemed beyond canine comprehension. The way he positioned himself in doorways when Lily napped, how he tilted his head whenever someone approached their temporary cabin, assessing them with those intelligent golden eyes. Logan visited daily, bringing supplies and updates on the case against Michael Hayes and his poaching operation. The federal investigation had expanded, uncovering an international smuggling ring that traded in bear gallbladders and other animal parts. They found evidence linking Hayes to poaching activities in 3 states, Logan explained one evening, as they sat on the porch of the rental cabin. Moon lay at their feet, seemingly asleep but with one ear pricked attentively. "He's facing decades in prison. His men are cooperating in exchange for reduced sentences." "And the bears?" Savannah asked, glancing toward the distant mountains. She hadn't seen the mother bear or her cubs since that fateful morning, but she often felt a presence when she walked near the forest edge. A watchful guardian, keeping its distance. Logan smiled. "The forestry department has declared that section a protected area. No hunting allowed, not even during regular season. They've set up cameras to monitor the bear family from a distance." He hesitated. "Savannah, there's something else you should know." She recognized the serious tone in his voice. "What is it?" "The DNA results came back from the cubs' fur samples we collected. According to the lab," He paused, choosing his words carefully. Those two cubs can't be from the same litter. One is significantly older than the other, maybe from a previous year. Savannah frowned. But they were together, following the mother bear. Exactly. Logan leaned forward, lowering his voice though there was no one else around to hear. Bears don't do that, Savannah. Cubs from different years don't travel together with the mother. Once a new litter arrives, the older cubs are driven away to fend for themselves. The implications hung in the air between them. If the cubs weren't naturally together, then something, or someone, had brought them together. Savannah's eyes drifted to Moon, who had lifted his head and was watching them with unnerving focus. "There's more," Logan continued. "I went back to the site where the poachers killed the other cubs. There was a third set of tracks there, small paw prints that match a canine about Moon's size. The prints led away from the scene, toward your cabin." Savannah felt a chill run down her spine. "You think Moon was there? When the cubs were killed?" Logan shrugged, but his expression remained serious. "I think there's something special about that puppy, Savannah. The old stories about the forest guardian, they always mentioned a shepherd with a moon mark who brought lost children home, who protected mothers in their time of need." As if acknowledging the conversation, Moon stood and stretched, then padded over to the doorway, where Lily could be heard babbling happily in her playpen. The puppy sat in the threshold, his posture alert and protective. "Whatever he is," Savannah said softly, "he belongs with us now." Logan reached across the space between them, tentatively taking her hand. The touch sent a spark of warmth through Savannah's chest, a feeling she'd thought was buried with Jacob. "And what about you?" he asked. "Do you still want to stay here after everything that happened?" Savannah looked out at the forest, thinking about the strange bonds that had formed in the crucible of that terrifying morning. A mother bear who recognized something in a human mother's eyes. A puppy who might be more than he appeared. A baby who had spoken her first word in the aftermath of chaos. "Yes," she said with quiet certainty. "This is where we belong now. All of us." As twilight deepened around them, a distant howl echoed from the mountains. Not a wolf, but something else. Something that seemed to carry a message in its mournful call. In the doorway, Moon lifted his head and answered with a high, clear howl of his own. The sound was too powerful, too ancient for his small body, and it made the hairs on Savannah's arms stand on end. Logan's hand tightened around hers. "I should go," he said, though he made no move to leave. "Or you could stay," Savannah replied, surprising herself with her boldness. "Just for dinner. Lily would like that." She paused. "I would, too." In the growing darkness, she could see his smile. "I'd like that very much." Inside the cabin, Lily laughed as if sharing a private joke with Moon, who had returned to her side. Outside, the forest whispered its ancient secrets to the night, and somewhere among the trees, a mother bear guided her mismatched cubs through territory that was once again safe for them. Different mothers, different children, different species, all connected by the invisible threads of protection, compassion, and love. The baby's help for both had indeed shocked everyone, bringing healing to the forest and to Savannah's broken heart in ways no one could have predicted. As Savannah rose to go inside, she glanced once more at the darkened tree line. For just a moment she thought she saw a pair of intelligent eyes watching from the shadows, acknowledging the strange bond that now linked their families. Then they were gone, leaving only the rustling leaves and the promise of a new beginning. 6 months later, the forest was transformed by the first snowfall of winter. Savannah stood on the porch of her rebuilt cabin, watching as Lily, now steady on her feet, waddled through the shallow snow, giggling with each step. Moon bounded alongside her, no longer a tiny puppy but growing into his role as protector. His moon-shaped marking seemed to glow against his dark fur in the winter light. Logan emerged from the cabin carrying 2 steaming mugs of coffee. "They're inseparable," he observed, handing one to Savannah. Their fingers brushed, a casual intimacy that had grown familiar over these months of rebuilding. Not just the cabin, but their lives. "Look," Savannah whispered, pointing toward the tree line. The mother bear had appeared with her cubs, now much larger but still recognizable. They kept their distance, watching the human child play in the snow. It had become a ritual of sorts, these brief, peaceful encounters at dawn or dusk. Never too close, but close enough to acknowledge the bond that had formed that fateful day. "Still can't believe they haven't gone into hibernation," Logan said, shaking his head in wonder. "It's like they're checking on us." As if hearing his words, the mother bear rose onto her hind legs, her powerful silhouette stark against the snow-covered trees. She huffed, her breath visible in the cold air. The cubs stayed close to her sides, curious but cautious. Lily spotted them and stopped her play, standing perfectly still in the snow. Without fear, she raised her small hand in that same gesture of greeting she had offered months ago. "Bear friends," she called out, her vocabulary now expanding daily. Moon trotted to Lily's side, alert but unafraid. He sat beside her, a guardian between worlds. What happened next brought tears to Savannah's eyes. The mother bear lowered herself to all fours and nudged her cubs forward, just a few steps, but the gesture was unmistakable. An introduction, a blessing. Then, with one last look at the assembled humans and Moon, she turned and led her cubs back into the depths of the forest, their dark forms melting into the shadows beneath the pines. "Did you see that?" Savannah whispered, her voice thick with emotion. Logan nodded, slipping his arm around her waist. "I saw it." He paused, looking down at her with eyes that had grown soft with more than just friendship. "I've been meaning to ask you something, Savannah." Before he could continue, Lily came running back toward the porch, her cheeks flushed with cold and excitement. "Mama, Moon knew they were coming. He told me." Savannah knelt to receive her daughter's enthusiastic hug. "Did he now?" "And what else did Moon tell you?" Lily's face grew serious, her eyes wise beyond her years. "He said the forest is happy now. Everyone has their family." She looked up at Logan, then back to her mother. "Like us." Savannah felt her heart expand in her chest, full of a love she had thought lost forever. She met Logan's gaze over their daughter's head, seeing in his eyes the future they were building together. A family forged in the crucible of that extraordinary morning when a mother bear found a crying puppy, and a baby's compassion helped them all find their way home. "Yes," she said softly, reaching for Logan's hand. "Like us?" Moon sat at attention nearby, his golden eyes reflecting the winter light. For just a moment, Savannah could have sworn they gleamed with an ancient wisdom, the forest guardian watching over his chosen family. Then he bounded off to chase a snowflake, just an ordinary puppy again. That night, as the snow continued to fall gently outside their warm cabin, Savannah stood at the window watching the moonlight transform the forest into a silver wonderland. Logan's arms encircled her from behind, and Lily slept peacefully in her room, with Moon curled protectively at the foot of her bed. "I never thought I'd find happiness again after Jacob," Savannah whispered. "I never imagined I'd find a place where I truly belonged." Logan pressed a kiss to her temple. "Maybe we didn't find it," he suggested. "Maybe it found us." Somewhere in the distant forest, A mother bear settled her cubs into their winter den, her mission of protection and connection complete. The unlikely bond between bear and human, puppy and child, had healed wounds deeper than any physical injury, proving that sometimes the most powerful magic comes from the simple act of recognizing another's pain and offering comfort across the boundaries that normally divide us. In the bedroom, Moon lifted his head from his paws, ears pricked toward the forest, as if hearing a call beyond human perception. His moon-shaped marking caught the silver light, glowing briefly with an otherworldly radiance. Then he sighed contentedly and returned to his slumber, guardian of dreams and protector of the new family that had formed in the shadow of tragedy and emerged into light. And in that quiet moment of peace, bear in forest, humans in cabin, and moon between worlds, the circle was complete. Different mothers, different children, different species, all connected by the most powerful force in any world: love.